overwhelmed too.
And how many times do you come back from like a conference or you read a book, you've got all these ideas, and because you have so many, you end up implementing zero.
Yeah. And I remember us thinking towards the end of the conference, we're like, wow, okay, where do we start? And then this is how the conference pretty much was wrapped up with, was listening to this talk, and it just gave us a perfect framework that we implemented right away to help determine what did we want to take away from that conference and execute on.
You're listening to Gray's Cast, a show that shares the secrets to selling perishable food products online. The show and advice is brought to you by the team at Seven Sons, which is an 8-figure e-commerce business that started completely from scratch. Each episode, we bring you one topic, 3 strategies, and one tangible resource to continue your learning and put you on the fast track in your own e-commerce journey. Let's begin.
2, 1. You can do anything, but not everything. That's a quote from David Allen to introduce this episode, where Blaine and I are going to be breaking down a framework known as ICE. And it's a framework that you can use to help determine how to prioritize your projects and where to spend your time.
It's like a filter for if you're overwhelmed, maybe stuck. You've got all kinds of ideas, opportunities in front of you. Or the best thing is when you come back from a conference, which is where we learned this. And I was going to say, this is a little different than our top 3 episodes that we've been doing here. But what's cool about the framework is it works by just asking yourself 3 simple questions to help determine where to prioritize your time. So very fun framework to use, very simple to use. We use it all the time. And it actually becomes like
part of our culture. It comes up in daily conversations where we're trying to decide where to spend our time, and we just go through this framework. You can do it very, very quickly. But yeah, we first learned this framework from a conference we were coming back from, the Traffic and Conversion Conference in San Diego, put on by a digital marketer. And it was Richard Linder, I believe, who walked through this framework, and where we originally picked this up. Who's the president of Digital Marketer, and just a very insightful talk. But that was actually incredibly helpful. Is at the end of I think 2-day conference. Is that how long we were there?
2 or 3 days.
So just inundated with so many ideas. I mean, we're very motivated, but a little overwhelmed too.
And how many times do you come back from like a conference or you read a book? You've got all these ideas, and because you have so many, you end up implementing zero.
Yeah. And I remember us thinking towards the end of the conference, we're like, wow, okay, where do we start? And then this is how the conference pretty much was wrapped up with, was listening to this talk, and it just gave us a perfect framework that we implemented right away to help determine what did we want to take away from that conference and execute on.
It's easy to remember. So the acronym is ICE, so ICE. And once you start going through it, it's be a quick episode.
Explain how it works.
This will be a quick win for everybody.
Okay, I'll start. Well,
you go.
So basically the way this works is, let's just use the example of us coming home from the conference. So they tell you to work through this framework by asking yourself, take all the different ideas and takeaways that you had, different projects that you could implement on, and ask yourself these 3 questions for each project. So what is the level of impact that implementing this project could have on my business?
So that's what the I stands for. And
that's I.
Is impact. Okay.
And you rate each question, your answer to each question is a number 1 through 10.
Yep.
Okay. So this works out as a math equation at the end. So those are
draw it out
who likes numbers.
Yeah. Like you're whiteboarding or something.
Yeah. Put it on a grid. On the left-hand side, just put it, write down all your different projects. Maybe you have 10 different projects, so 1 through 10. And then just put columns up at the top for each one of these questions. So questions number 1 is impact. How much impact will this have on my business if it's implemented successfully?
So this is good too if you're just getting started with your business. There's so many different ways you could go about marketing. Do I go to my farmers markets? Do I spend a bunch of time on social media? Do I get a website set up? Do I start sending weekly newsletters? So think about the impact of whatever idea you're considering. Right?
Yep. And impact could mean something different from you. Maybe the impact is revenue impact. So if that's kind of what you're rating this on, or maybe it's the profit that's added to your business. Could even be just if you're taking this through and applying this framework to something that's personal in your life, it could just be rating the level of quality of life impact that this could have for you. Yep. So you can use this framework for a lot of different use cases. So question number 2 is going to be C, which stands for confidence. So how confident are you that this project or whatever you're about to implement will work?
So what if you find an idea that, wow, if that was implemented, that would be a substantial impact on our business. But you also have to ask the questions, how confident am I on my ability to execute this?
So a great example might be if you're a startup in the startup world, and you know that if you could just get, a certain amount of funding, that could have a huge impact on your ability to get started. But what's your level of confidence at approaching investors and actually acquiring that funding?
Right, right. Have you done that before?
Impact could be high, and maybe confidence, depending on who you are and what kind of connections you have, might be a lot lower. So again, score it 1 through 10.
So it's kind of like dreaming. You can come with all kinds of dreams, but this is like ground truthing. Okay, how confident are you this could actually get pulled off?
Third question is going to be E, which stands for ease. So it's different from confidence. What is the level of effort that's going to be required to implement this project? Okay. Yep. So you could have a lot of confidence in the impact this could bring to your business. Same thing with confidence, but now you're rating how easy is this going to be between the 10 different projects that you made a list for.
So just as an example, Brooks, and we've considered this over and over, especially in the last 12 months, what if we started our own processing facility to process all of the meat products and fabricate everything? Well, I mean, it could have a pretty serious impact on our revenue and our profit. Actually, to just be a whole nother opportunity to create value and to capture profit in our business. So the impact could be pretty good.
Yeah, we know what we're spending on processing, so it's very easy to look and say, well, what if we were just doing our own? That's coming to our business instead of someone else's.
Yeah, exactly. And if we asked ourselves this 15 years ago, our confidence level would have been pretty low. But at this point, we've met so many people in the industry. We've met people that help consult and set up processing facilities. There's a lot of partners we could engage with to walk us through starting a processor. So really, our level of confidence is a lot higher than it's ever been of starting a processing facility. But when you think about ease, I mean, I'm just thinking of a capital outlay alone, and how quickly it could be implemented. That's not a 1 month project, right? That's a multi-year project to do what we would need to do.
Yep. So for this example, we might rate that as an 8 on impact compared to the rest of our ideas. We might give it an 8 on confidence.
7 or 8.
7 or 8.
Yep.
But then the ease is going to be down to closer, 2 or 3, maybe. So again, now what you do once you've gone through those 3 questions, and you've gone through those 3 questions for all 10 of your projects or how many you have you're trying to consider from, you just add up the numbers and give it a score. Yeah. So then they all end up with a score. So in that example, we ended up with 21. Yeah. And then we go through the next idea, rank it, and then what you do is you just sort these in chronological order for what had the highest score. And that's more than likely maybe where you should be spending your time.
If you're a farm listening and you're stacking enterprises, you're always thinking about what's the next enterprise I could add to my farm. One decision we made was on our farm for our poultry enterprises. Were we going to have laying hens, or are we going to focus on poultry production? Well, if you ice those 2 ideas there, for us, giving our context, we never ended up starting a poultry broiler enterprise on our farm because we didn't have good access to processing. So yes, impact. We always knew impact would be high if we did it. It'd be a great profit stream. Confidence that we could actually do it. Absolutely. The ease, well, it would require, again, processing infrastructure or traveling really far to a processor. So instead, we focused on growing our egg enterprise.
We had 7 brothers to wash the eggs, and the processing equipment was much lower.
Yeah, that was...
For our context, very different, so much easier.
So there you go. So and again, this is just so helpful when you're inundated with ideas and you go through and it's fun to do. You just score them, and it does help really provide a filter. And obviously, everything has to be a gut check at the end of the day.
Yep.
But
it's a great way to also, if you're a family business or you have a team, to create some alignment, get people on the same page. If there's a little bit of, you're not on the same page or in agreement with what direction you need to go with the business, score it, write it all down, come to an agreement on what numbers that you would give everything. And that's a great way sometimes to help get everyone on the same page.
It does just ask the right questions, and it drives practical thinking when it comes to all the different pipe dreams and going through the idea.
And it's a simple framework, easy for everyone to understand. It's like one of those pocket frameworks that you take with you everywhere. You're constantly auditing everything under these 3 questions.
We do it all the time, just in passing conversation. Well, how much impact? How confident are we? And
it's a great way to actually just measure too. A lot of times you have something come your way where you have to make a decision. It's a yes or no. Take 2 different directions, or you have 2 different options, and it's very easy just to put those 2 options under the framework. Or even when choosing your partners as well, you can put that under this framework as well. Whatever one scores higher, well, then that's the direction that you're going to end up going.
Objective format can kind of take your preferences and what you really like to do out of the equation, and makes it a little more practical.
I think it's really helpful too in the if you're in the startup phase, you're just getting started, because again, there's a lot to do. Right.
Yep.
So it's a great way for you to put all those different projects, everything that you need to get done, and help sequence it in the right order. And it will evolve and change over time. But when you're starting out just from scratch, then there's some things for you that are going to rank really high. For other people, that's going to be a little bit lower. And that's what I love the most about this. It takes your context into mind, because you can ask an industry expert, a consultant all day long, hey, where do you think I should be prioritizing my time?
10 different answers, 10 different people.
Yeah, this brings in your context into it. So it's going to evolve and change over time.
One decision we made when we were just getting started, Brooks, was with our marketing. Do we spend time on, and we really considered it, going after, label certifications, third-party label certifications. Yep. As a new business, you kind of wanted that affirmation and that credibility that certification would bring to you. Ultimately, we decided early on, let's just focus on internet digital marketing. We felt like that was our future. That's where we stayed focused. And boy, am I glad. I mean, we sold millions of dollars worth of food without a single label certification. It's just our name and logo, our brand on that package. And that's what we invested in building in.
And again, that early phase is so easy to get hung up because you're comparing yourself to everyone else. So you feel like you have to have everything very, very polished and ready to go when you're starting. But if you put everything through this framework, you can kind of understand, well, really what's going to have the biggest impact. I know a question that we get a lot of from people who are just starting out is the label certification question, but also just branding. Hey, do I have to have, how important is it to have my logo on my label and to have a professional designer go through this? Like, what kind of impact is it going to have for my business long term? And it's like, well, that stuff does matter, but compared to maybe some other things that you could spend your time on, like starting a weekly newsletter to start growing your email list and start priming a group of potential buyers. That way, when you launch whatever product it is you have to offer, you have someone who may be ready to say yes, and you have a relationship with.
You can make branding corrections year one after you get your first little database of customers very, very quickly. But don't start doing that a second to starting a newsletter or a website following.
Yep. So hopefully this is very practical advice, something that you can take home, implement on right away. I mean, I know we talk about a lot of ideas on this podcast, and that's sometimes we get feedback from is, wow, that's all a lot. I don't really know where to start, where to implement. Well, here, use this framework, and that's going to help bring in your context to it. It also brings in your unique skill sets into it, because something that is easy for us to do might not be easy for you to do. And then something that you have a unique skill set for that's very easy for you to implement on, you might score that a lot higher than the next person would. So it really, really brings in your unique skill sets, your unique context and phase of business, which just makes it a perfect framework to use to determine where to spend your time.
Yep. Use it over and over.
All right. That's it.